Hello AP World, it's Menenberg again. This is actually take two. The first video I already had to edit, so let's just start over. By now, most of you have heard the news. The AP or College Board has determined that the format for the new test is going to be, you guessed it, the DBQ. This is not a joke, so for those of you who are excited about this, good for you. Those of you who are freaking out, calm down, take a beat. We're going to walk you through this and hopefully put your minds at ease as we kind of explore what exactly the new format is going to be. So first of all, let me just say this. I thought it was going to be the SAQ. A lot of people agreed with me. This is good news, though. To be quite honest with you, I was very concerned about the SAQs because I saw some of those stimuli. I saw some of your responses. And some of you were on the right track, but many of you were not. And the prospect of you writing a very conducive short answer question 3 times, 2 in response to a very complex stimulus, did not give me high hopes. I was going to encourage you and do everything I could, but I think the DBQ is actually going to be a little bit more manageable for you. And they have adjusted our rubric in a few big ways that I'm going to walk us through as we move. Okay, so first, let me just explain the new format. So we've walked through the DBQ on many occasions, and the typical is the 7 document format. Now we're doing 5. Okay, with the 45 minutes, they understand it's not realistic for us to go through 7 documents and write an essay. So now you only have to do 5. Okay, so that's first piece of good news there. There will likely still be an image or a map or a graph of some kind, some non-text based document, and you no longer going to have to use all 6 or 7 or whatever it was, and the points on the rubric are quite a bit different. So I'm going to walk us through that now. I'm posting the official rubric on PowerSchool, so if you want to look through this as I talk through it, that's totally fine. But first, let me just say that the rubric for a few of the points is identical. So for example, the contextualization and the thesis points are the same, but now instead of 7 total points, we have 10 points available. So previously, here's where we got the points. Previously, you only had 3 possible evidence points. Now we have 5 possible evidence points. The first comes by using the content of 2 out of the 5 documents. So in the old, you had to use content from 3 docs for 7 out of 7. Now it's 2 docs out of 5. Okay? Evidence point number 2 is supporting an argument using evidence from 2 documents out of 5. Evidence point number 3, supporting an argument in response to the prompt using 4 documents. So they basically are splitting evidence point 2, what it used to be, into 2 points. So instead of the old one where you had to use 6 documents to support an argument, now you only have to use 2 to get 1 point, and then you get another point if you use 4 out of 5 of the documents. So you still have the ability to drop a whole document and ignore it completely. Okay, let's be clear about that. Okay, so that's evidence point 1, 2, and 3. Evidence point number 4 is point 4 and 5 is using outside information, outside evidence. So remember, on the old rubric, you had to use only 1 piece to get that extra point for evidence point number 3. Now it's evidence point 4 and 5. Each are outside evidence. These are still just as doable as before. Remember, it's anything that is not included in the documents or the prompt itself. So this is where your content review is going to come in handy, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. Okay, next, here's another change that we have. Analysis and reasoning point number 1. They also split this into 2 points. So this is great news for many of you because capping is a daunting practice. A lot of you are still struggling with it. Don't worry, we're going to do videos separately for this that will kind of walk you through how to do that. But for the new rubric, you basically get 2 points for capping. 1 for one document and 1 for another document. That means you don't have to cap 3 anymore. But if you're doing what I've told you to do all along, you're going to end up capping or attempting to cap all 5 documents. If you do that, I would suspect you'll probably have a really good chance of getting analysis point 1 and 2. Now, analysis and reasoning point 3 is the same as analysis and reasoning point 2 on the old rubric, which is that complexity point, that connecting your argument to something else, another time, another theme, another counter argument, something like that. You guys know how to do that. That point has not changed. It's just now point number 10 instead of point number 7. Okay, so again, I'm including this document on a link to it on our PowerSchool page, so you can look at it. If you have questions, let me know. Okay, so we've talked about the new format. We've talked about the new rubric. I want to just go over briefly a couple other things, including exam security, and then some basics of how to prepare. Okay, so first, exam security. A few of you, I should say, are sending me messages. I know a lot of you are thinking about this, like, it's open note. What's stopping me from just Googling the document or texting my friends while I'm taking this? What do you guys think about Doc 2? That kind of thing. Here's the deal. The College Board talked to us about this yesterday in our conference, and essentially they are monitoring social media. They're looking for evidence that people are cheating or even planning to cheat or demonstrate academic dishonesty between now and the exam date. So be careful, okay? First of all, I don't know if there's any reason for you to even think about cheating, but if you were to think about cheating, I don't think I would tell anybody about it because social media is visible. They are looking. They have canceled scores. They have caught many people for cheating by way of social media. Don't be foolish, okay? So read between the lines there. The other part about the open note, I mentioned this in the other video about, SAQs, and that it's the same thing, same concept. You simply do not have time in a 45-minute test to be trying to find the specific documents. Now, what I will say is that it might be helpful or worthwhile to at least have your notes out or have the textbook out or both and find the topic of the prompt in your notes very quickly. I wouldn't spend a ton of time looking through the entire chapter or all of your notes or anything like that for that topic, but you would use it at least to try to get your mind around the topic of the prompt so that you can knock the contextualization point out of the park. There's no reason for you not to get the contextualization point if you have your notes on the table. Now, that being said, again, I would really, really caution you about spending too much time looking up specific people or the author of a source or a specific situation. It's going to cost you too much time. I don't think it's going to help you that much. And frankly, you guys are more than capable of getting there. Just remember, again, another reason why we thought this is good news is because all year, whether it's multiple choice or short answer questions or just our introduction to the DBQ in itself, you have been exposed to so many different documents that are like what you're going to see on the DBQ that this shouldn't faze you. Remember, the DBQ is nothing more than the LEQ where they give you the evidence. I mean, that's really what it is. There's obviously a little bit more to it with the sourcing and all that, but you guys can handle that. We're going to teach you how and review how, I should say, and hopefully you'll have no fear going into the new test date, which is May 21st now. So you have an extra week as well for AP Euro. I believe it's May 13th, which is also another week to prepare. You guys, there are at least 11 DBQs on AP Classroom. There's one for every unit on AMSCO. There's also several that are available to you now on 5 Steps to a 5. I posted that link on PowerSchool, and we will provide you additional study tools as we move forward. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about how to prepare, and then obviously we're heading into spring break here, so I don't want you to stress out too much during the break and maybe use this time to kind of pause and reset. So if I were you, again, don't worry about the SAQs being a waste of your time. They are not a waste of your time. They're absolutely helping you get prepared for the DBQ because there's so much similar analysis and use of specific evidence that you're finding both inside those stimuli and outside of the stimuli that transfers directly to a DBQ. Now, a lot of you have asked me for that feedback from our DBQ that we did in class before we went on our pause. Look, here's what I'm going to do. Rather than scan every single page that you all wrote and send it individually to you with feedback, it's going to be better for you if I scan 2 or 3 very good DBQs that you and your classmates may have written and give detailed feedback on those. The reason I say, look, it's going in the gradebook, but the reason I say that is because you need to see how you should be trying to do it rather than how not to do it. In addition to that, every time I grade DBQs or LEQs or SAQs, the same types of patterns emerge, the same types of good things that are done and problems or poor things that are done occur. It's not like every student's completely unique. No offense to you. Sorry, Mom, your kid's not totally special when it comes to writing these things. So I see the same things over and over again, and I think it'd be better if I gave general feedback because it's going to help you, especially because the DBQ we actually assigned was not very closely related to what you'll see on the actual exam. And the reason, or what I mean by that, is the documents were shorter and the test question, the prompt, was much more clearly setting a course for you in terms of what to write about. It very much laid out what you should write. The new DBQ format, the prompts are a little bit more ambiguous. They're still very accessible and you can, no problem, you should be able to do them. But just so you know, the DBQ we did in class, a little bit easier because it was your first full DBQ that we had. Okay? So again, the feedback that I'm going to give you is going to be more general, but it's going to be hopefully helpful. And then we're going to continue giving you practice opportunities as we prepare for the exam itself. Okay, so the last thing I want to mention is general ideas for preparing for this. Okay, first and foremost is going to be the activity of practicing writing DBQs, especially with the timing of it. Okay. If it was me, I would use the practice DBQs as part of my content review. You can really quickly write shorthand notes to yourself for things you need to review in terms of content as you take a DBQ. But beyond that, again, you are going to need to do some basic content review. Every unit has probably 3 or 4 DBQs available that you can easily find, whether it's on AP Classroom or AMSCO or somewhere else. I would tackle a couple of those. Not for every unit, but at least one per unit before we wrap up our preparation. We will still try to have a practice exam for you as well. That will be a 5-document DBQ. Another thing I would probably encourage you to do is really kind of create some sort of calendar. Your AP World team is working on that calendar right now for you for our purposes, but for your own purposes, I'd have a calendar in place so you know exactly what you're going to do to prepare. People, there's more than enough time, okay? What I'm going to do after spring break is I'm going to come up with a video for kind of more details on how to study for the DBQ, like in general, but also a video on each component of that new rubric so you can kind of figure out how best to write it. I'll likely be walking you through one of those DBQs from AP Classroom as well to that. And hopefully going forward, that will provide more than enough preparation for you as we get closer and closer to that May 21st test date. Look, people, spring break is upon us. It's worth pausing to reset. I'm not going to say don't study. I'm not going to say don't do anything, but by no means are you required at this point. I'll be a little bit less accessible next week, so don't expect me to get back to you on an email, but certainly you're welcome to send me stuff. I'm happy to give you feedback. All right, people, I hope this is helpful. Don't stress. This is going to be good. You guys are going to be fine. I'm not worried about you. We'll be talking more when we get back from spring break, though. Have a good one.